Hey everyone, Alicia here from Stretch It app, and on today's episode of Stretch It Fundamentals, we cover bridge. In order to better understand the position, we'll dissect the different exercises that I feel will benefit not only overall flexibility, but specifically to achieve the extended bridge position. Beginning with a wrist stretch, because in bridge, your fingertips are facing the shoulders, and it might be a tough position to enter if you're not quite used to that range. So beginning on the knees, let's first turn right hand in, fingertips facing knees, tuck toes under, carefully sit back onto your heels. The closer your fingertips are to the knees, the less intense the stretch. The farther away, the more intense, harder in trying to keep the palm down and the fingers wide. So if that's uncomfortable, start your hand closer and you can gently ease in and out of it. Remember to synchronize your breath here. Inhale on your shift forward, exhale on your shift back. You can do 3 to 5 shifts, and on the final one, pull the hip back, seeing if it feels a little bit better here, not as tight. If you want to adjust the distance, you can, and stay. 4, 3, 2, lift up and switch. Other hand. I like to start with one hand at a time, especially if it's your first time doing this wrist stretch. A little less intense than doing both hands at the same time. Remember 3 to 5 shifts here. And on your final one, we'll keep hips back on the heels, pressing the palms down, keeping the fingers wide. 4, 3, 2, and release. Next, we have our shoulders, which could be very tight along with the chest. In a bridge position, naturally, we'll use our low spine because there's a lot of space between the vertebrae, but particularly tight the higher you travel up your spine. And with the shoulders, there's a lot of potential here to put the space in our shoulders, upper and middle back. So why don't we target those regions? You can place a block between the heels, have a seat on. If it's more comfortable, you can sit on the block with crossed legs. Second block in hand, bend the elbows and have your forearms parallel to the floor. See if you can just isolate the arms by pressing them back, not by arching. We want to target the shoulders here and keep the rest of the spine as is. If you're lifting your shoulders or doing something strange with your neck, maybe lessen the movement so you can focus on just isolating these shifts. We have 4, 3, 2, hold the arms back, pull the navel in and stay. 4, 3, 2, straighten elbows, round the back, place the block on your legs, reset here. Lift up again, bend the elbows, take arms behind you, and we have our shifts. Back and forward, back and forward. If you can, try to just move from your shoulders. 4, 3, 2, hold the arms back and you stay. 4, 3, 2, release. Again, round forward, rest block on the knees. Next, we have our hip flexors, which often get neglected because who would have thought our hips are the foundation for back bends? They are, in fact, and I feel the easiest way to target them is to keep our hips higher than they usually are in a low lunge position. Typically, in low lunge, hips are down, but if we have not yet targeted our psoas correctly, we could just sink and use the low back to lift our chest. However, if we shorten our stance, more in a 90-90 position, We can then posteriorly tilt the pelvis that will better target the psoas. We don't have our low back involved yet. We can now dissect, so focusing on the hips, and then when putting it all together, it could feel a little more harmonious that way. You could also move in and out of this position so you can better feel the difference between a posterior tilt and an anterior tilt. Anterior, the tailbone is pointing back. Posterior, you want to tuck tailbone forward. Let's take one more. Pulling it under and staying. Try to flatten this hip crease. Pull the navel away and you stay. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and release. Carefully switching sides. We'll have our other foot forward. Again, in a shortened 90-90 stance, hands on the hips. Let's start with our hip shifts first. Anterior tilt, posterior tilt. We have 4, tuck under, 3, 2, final one, we stay. Hold the posterior tilt, drive the hip forward. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and release. Lowering down just to our rib cage and have forearms in front. This is now targeting upper and middle back. Oftentimes it might be challenging for us to separate the two. So let's keep the low back right where it is. Have our palms in front and now pull your chest forward. That action of trying to get your shoulder blades in and through your chest is how we'll best target upper and middle back. And you can also follow through with your gaze by looking up, and we stay. 4, 3, 2, and release. Look down for a reset. Lift up, breath in. Exhale, hold. 4, 3, 2, and release. Lift up and hold. We stay. 4, 3, 2, and release. Final one, we stay. Gaze is up, chest wide. 4, 3, 2, and release. Now for the extension, let's place our hands out, peel the chest up, keep the legs wide behind you, and widen chest, pull shoulder blades in, but your hips are driving forward. We don't just want to squeeze the glutes. This is a dynamic action. Same thing when we were in our 90-90 lunge position, driving the hip forward. You still want to do so here, even though they're on the floor. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and bring it down. If we find our way on our back to set up the bridge position, we can enter one in two ways. The first way, when speaking about the wrist position, is to place the hands behind us. Now, again, this might be fairly difficult if it's your first time encountering this wrist position. Your fingertips are facing the shoulders, and to produce the most force for a stable position, it is ideal that you have your entire palm and fingers on the ground. Now, when pressing your hip up, you want to initiate by lifting your pelvis off the floor. You can widen your feet here. They don't have to be directly in front or strictly parallel. Turn the toes out slightly, lift the hip, and maybe find the top of your head. But remember, you're not using your head to hold the weight. You're still using the strength of your shoulders and your hands to hold. The next progression is to lift a little higher. Again, weight is still in your hand. And the final shape is to press your chest as forward as possible and then to walk your heels in closer. But all those hip extension exercises we did in lunge is to help in lifting the pelvis higher in this bridge shape. To lower down, bend your elbows, top of head, chin, and then back all the way. If you wish to enter from a higher position, you start seated, hand behind, other in front. This takes a little more shoulder mobility where you want to lift the hips, follow top hand as far back as you can, and then lower down for the other side, arm in front, lift all the way, and lower down. Even though you might not be able to place your second hand down behind you because you have to rotate the first hand in order for your fingertips to face in, it might be an opportunity, however, to practice getting your hips up as high as possible. If you feel that you're still primarily using your low back in a bridge, use this access to practice getting your hip up. Push down through your feet, hip up, and then lower. And to find the second arm is to place it down first so you can switch the other, fingertips in, chest forward. To come down, you have to place your weight on the first hand. We could always play with that in another video when coming out of a bridge. But those are two ways to enter bridge. The first way, if you're fine with the wrist position. The second way, if you have to practice your wrist flexibility, is just trying to get your hips up as high as possible. To improve flexibility, please check out our classes on Stretch It app. You can find the link down in the description box. If you want to see more classes like these, please subscribe to our channel and like this video.